So it's that time of year again. Can I ask you a serious question? How is it possible that almost everyone in this country complains about daylight savings time, and yet we're still doing it? Every year, the same thing happens. We lose an hour of sleep, everyone is tired, half the clocks in the house are wrong. Your microwave says one time, the oven says something completely different, and the clock in your car or truck, well, that thing is still going to be wrong in June because nobody cares enough to dig through the setting menu and fix it. And by Monday morning, everybody in the country is asking the exact same question. Why the hell are we still doing this? Now, the funny part is most people complaining about daylight saving time don't actually know why it exists in the first place. Now, you ask 10 people, you'll get 10 different answers. Now, the most common one you'll hear is farmers. Everyone thinks the farmers wanted this, but farmers actually hated daylight savings time. Cows don't care what your clock says. Livestock run on routine and sunlight, not government time. If you suddenly move the clock forward an hour, the animals don't magically adjust. Farmers still have to feed them, milk them, and work the same schedule they always did. So this idea that farmers were begging for daylight savings time is mostly a myth. And now you'll hear from other people that it was because of the railroads. But that's what they say. And that one actually sounds believable because railroads did play a huge role in creating our modern time system. Before the late 1800s, every town basically kept its own time based on the sun, which was fine until trains started traveling across the country. Then schedules became, well, a little chaotic. So the railroads helped push the country forward by standardizing time zones. But that's different from daylight savings time. The clock changing thing didn't come from the railroads or the farmers. It came later during World War I. You see, governments were trying to conserve energy during the war. The idea was pretty simple. If the sun stayed out later in the evening, people would use less electricity for lighting. So someone had the idea, why don't we just move the clocks forward an hour? More daylight in the evening, less electricity used at night. It was a wartime trick, something we would do during an emergency and then just stop. Except somehow that temporary idea turned into something we've been doing over 100 fucking years. Even though modern studies show the energy savings are basically nothing. In some cases, electricity actually goes up because people run air conditioning longer in the evening. So the original reason doesn't really hold up anymore. But here's the part that surprised me when I started looking into this. Spring forward isn't just annoying, it's actually one of the most dangerous days of the year. Believe it or not, I used to be a health and safety manager for about 10 years. I went to college for it. And I remember very distinctly in my classes, my professors talking about daylight savings. And believe it or not, the reason isn't that complicated. It's sleep. When we spring forward, the entire country suddenly loses 1 hour sleep overnight. Your body runs on something called the circadian rhythm. It's basically your internal clock that controls when you feel awake and when you feel tired. And when you suddenly shift that schedule by an hour, your brain doesn't instantly adjust. Most people don't go to bed earlier the night before. They go to bed at the same time they always do, which means the next morning, well, they're running on less sleep. And when millions of people are slightly more tired, slightly more distracted, and slightly slower to react, that starts showing up in statistics. Car accidents, or what we used to call them incidents, well, they increase. Researchers have seen noticeable spikes in crashes right after the spring change. Workplace injuries go up too, especially in jobs where people need to stay alert around equipment or machinery. Now, think construction sites, factories, warehouses. When someone is even a little sleep deprived, they're more likely to make a mistake. Oh, and don't forget the possible heart attack thing. Some studies have shown increases in heart attacks right after spring change. Other research have found that data isn't as clear as people think, but doctors still agree that sudden sleep disruption puts stress on your body. So even though the exact numbers can be debated, the basic idea still makes sense. You take an entire country, mess with everybody's sleep, and suddenly people aren't operating at their best. All because we moved the clock forward 1 hour. And here's what really drives people up the fucking wall. This isn't some secret problem nobody knows about. Everybody knows about it. Sleep experts talk about it. Doctors talk about it. People complain about it in every single year that passes. Politicians even say they're working on a fix. You hear it every year. I thought that we weren't doing that anymore. They say they're going to stop doing it, and then all of a sudden, the next year, we do it again. It's almost like...
Fool you!
You'll hear about bills like the Sunshine Protection Act. They get talked about in the news, people get hopeful, and then, well, nothing happens. The bill disappears somewhere in Washington, of course, and we're right back again the next year changing our clocks forward and backwards. And I don't know why this hasn't been fixed.
Well, actually, the answer is pretty simple. The country is sort of split on this, almost right down the middle. Some people want permanent daylight saving time. Some people want sun later in the evening, more daylight after work. Others want permanent standard time. They want brighter mornings and earlier sunrises. And from everything I've seen, it's pretty close to a 50-50. So politicians don't want to make half the country angry.
And when you don't want to make the country angry, well, the easiest thing to do is nothing, which means we just keep changing the clocks forever. And there's another nuisance that almost nobody talks about. The public might be split on this, but the sleep experts are not split at all. Organizations like the American Medical Association and the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, well, both support getting rid of the clock changes and moving to a permanent standard time, not permanent daylight saving time, standard time. And the reason is biology. Your body clock is designed around sunlight. Morning light tells your brain it's time to wake up. It helps regulate hormones, alertness, and that thing we talked about, the circadian rhythm. When mornings stay dark for longer periods, which can happen in winter under permanent daylight savings time, it makes harder for your body to wake up naturally. Sleep experts say that misalignment can increase sleep problems and affect your mood, like mine, for 6 months out of the year. This can also contribute to things like depression and stress on your heart. And here's the crazy part. We actually tried permanent daylight saving time once before. Back in 1974, during the energy crisis, the United States decided to keep daylight savings time year-round to try to conserve fuel. Now, at first, people loved the idea. More evening sunlight sounded great, but then winter hit. Sunrise in some places didn't happen till almost 9 a.m. Kids were waiting for school buses in complete darkness. Morning commutes were pitch black, which I don't mind because I don't want the sun in my eyes. I'm sorry. And then the public opinion flipped almost overnight. It became so unpopular that the government scrapped the idea less than a year later. So the debate we're having today, we already had it about 15 years ago. Now, personally, I want longer evenings. In the winter, when it gets dark at like 4:30 p.m. in the afternoon, that is depressing as hell. You get home from work and it already feels like it's midnight. The entire day feels over before you even had time to do anything. So yeah, if you ask me, give me the sunlight at 7 or 8 p.m. I'll take it over to sunlight at 6 in the morning any day. Because honestly, who the hell needs it to be bright outside at 6 a.m.? But that's the problem. Half the country thinks the exact opposite of what I'm thinking. And because nobody agrees, we're stuck with this weird system where twice a year we all lose sleep, reset a bunch of clocks, and ask the exact same question. Why are we still doing this? Now, if people actually want to change it, there are a few things that could make a difference. First, talk about it like I'm doing here or in the comment section. Issues get attention. When enough people start making noise about them, well, people listen. Second, contact your state and federal representatives if you really want to make a change. It might sound boring, but politicians actually track how many people contact them about certain issues. If enough people start bringing something up, suddenly it becomes something they pay attention to. And third, stop treating it like it's just some harmless tradition, because it isn't. When something increases accidents, increases injuries, and messes with millions of people's sleep, that's not just some quirky old habit. That's a policy choice, and policies can be changed. So I'm curious where you land on this. If we got rid of the clock change tomorrow, would you want it permanently daylight savings time with longer evenings, or permanent standard time with brighter mornings? Because from what I can tell, the entire country is split right down the middle when it comes to this. And until we agree, we probably won't see anything changing soon, other than changing our clocks on our stoves and our microwaves forever. So let me know what you think. And if you like this video, check out this one right here and this one right here. And get subscribed, hit the bell notification so you don't miss out on any more of these rants, because I believe that they are important. And a lot of us are feeling the same way about things. So we'll love to see you back on the next video. Back more videos soon.